Hello there, crew. So I'm getting ready for a trip to Montana. It's going to be 4 days out. I'm going to spend a couple days there with sexy wife. She's going to stay there, and then I'm going to do another 4-day trip back. So I have an 8-day trip ahead of me, split in two. And I thought I would show you just my kit. This is sort of the basic stuff I like to bring with me. I do tend to be more on the minimalist side, with a few things. If a true minimalist, I'm not, but I'm definitely closer to carrying. I would rather carry less stuff than deal with those issues than to carry more stuff and just have a bunch of extra crap, the extra weight, the extra moving it around and all that kind of stuff. So I tend to keep things pretty simple. So let's take a look, see what I got. So obviously the main way that I carry my stuff are the built-in Kawasaki hard cases, and I don't know the size. They're decent size, obviously. I have no idea what the actual quart or what are liters or what do they call them. And then obviously the tank bag that I use as well. So let's kind of go through the top. Let's start here with a tank bag. You know, it's pretty basic stuff. I do carry a tripod in there. See if I can get that, you can see it. All right, so also in the tank bag will go some kind of snack. Normally I would have maybe some apple and peanut butter and jelly as well, but since I'm not leaving till tomorrow, I wasn't going to prepare that quite yet. I do have a toll bridge to go across, so I've got my quarters here for that. I'll have to figure out a place. It's always a big pain in the ass. My main still camera is here. This is a Panasonic LX7, which I really like. Very nice lens, very high-end lens, but it's still smaller sensor. But what that means is it's a very small form factor for what you get, and it fits very nicely in my tank bag right there, as opposed to having to take up a whole bunch of luggage space or have to carry a third piece of hard luggage to carry it. So that's a super nice camera, really like that. This is a little Instamatic kind of style camera bag, but what I have in here are all the batteries for the 2 cameras that I film with and a couple of extra memory cards as a just in case. My Butler map. This is my Oregon one. You can see that. I have a Northern California one too, but I haven't gone down there. I haven't used it. Too many forest fires last year. This thing, I'm not sponsored by them. I'm not an advocate, not some kind of a brand ambassador or anything like that. Fantastic map, and I spend a fair amount of time out of cell phone coverage areas, so being able to stop and use the map to at least get your bearings, if nothing else, is a huge plus. I'm not a GPS guy, as you probably know, and I really love using the maps. They've done a lot of work and research to plan out and to show where all the good roads are. Now, you know, keep in mind that they are small and growing, and so they haven't covered everywhere. Obviously, they've only covered a few states so far. So if you're lucky enough to have them, like Oregon is, big thumbs up. If you're in a place where they don't have them, well, hopefully they'll get to it. Hat, obviously. It's a bit of a luxury, but it is nice to have. Obviously, you get helmet hair, but also having the bill for a little bit of shade, sun eyes, and then you can also use it for over the camera sometimes. You know, if you have a lens glare situation, you can hold it over your camera. That's an old photographer's trick, I should say. PJ Lube with a chained bike. You know, obviously the manual says lube the chain every 600 miles, which on trips like this tends to be every 2 days. So I carry the lube with me. I am now carrying, this is new, sort of a new thing for this trip. I may not carry it all the time, but it's for this trip as I test out my new mount. This is the handlebar mount for my Look at Me camera, and then I'm also carrying a couple extra pads for the helmet mount on my main camera. If you've seen my last videos, day 4 of my last trip down to Ashland and back, you'll see why I'm carrying these with me now. The electronics, this is my electronics bag. It's a little bit hard to see. I have you know, my mouse. I've got, I'm not going to pull everything out, I'm just going to kind of talk you through some of it. You know, the usual stuff. I've got a couple of battery chargers in there for, like, this is the charger for the camera. Unfortunately, it doesn't charge in the camera. You have to use this. That's just Panasonic. Yay. And then I've got a couple wall chargers, generic ones that I can plug in the micro, is it micro or mini USB? Whichever. For, you know, doing things like the cameras themselves. And then I have a specific dual battery charger for my main camera's batteries. I can pull this out, plug it in. I can do 2 at a time, which is nice because I do tend to go through 3 or 4 of those in a trip, in a day, because they are the smaller kind. The drift, I also have aftermarket drift batteries, and so I have an aftermarket drift battery charger. It won't actually charge in the camera. These are, I don't remember, some thing I bought off Amazon, so I assume they're from China, but you know, the 2300, you know, batteries last a very long time, but they do require an external charger, and that kind of sucks, but that's fine. And then I've got an actual charger for my laptop. I'll jump over here and show that to you real quick. This is my Chromebook. I call it my laptop. It's my Chromebook. I really prefer this over a regular laptop. I shifted to using Chromebooks. This is, you know, you can buy these refurbished, meaning used, for 150 bucks, 170 bucks, 180 bucks, depending on which version you go with. It's not as robust, but I found that I never did any of those robust things with my laptop. The number one thing this has is the ability to connect remotely to my office computer. So I can, when I'm stopping to work, I open this up, I do remote desktop, I log into my computer here in the office, and I'm able to use the graphic software, use, you know, anything I have to do web design wise, access client files, all that kind of stuff that's on this computer, because this computer has all that. I don't need it on this computer. You know, I just connect remotely. So to me, that's kind of a coup. I'm going to jump back over and we'll just keep working our way across. This is my tool bag. I have the usual stuff, tire changing stuff, CO2 cartridges, you know, Allen wrenches, some baling wire, a couple rags, a couple gloves. Some basic stuff. My number one tool is my credit card. If it's not something like a simple adjustment and I'm talking about a breakdown, I'm the kind of person who is probably going to call roadside assistance and handle it that way. I'm not going to sit there and try to rebuild my, you know, my bike using the toolkit the bike came with. Here's this is, I would call this an optional item. This is a cover for the bike. So when I stop at a motel, obviously once the bike's cooled down, I will go out and I will put this cover on it. And I'm not so concerned about the theft aspect as just stuff. Like I've woken up in the next day and had my bike covered with stuff from local trees, you know, pollen and crap like that, and dust. There's one place, I think I was out in Heppner, they had a really windy, dusty night and there was like dust everywhere. And so that's really handy. And you know, it does help from a theft viewpoint, meaning that someone has to then deal with the taking the cover off, which may or may not alert you or may not cause noise that would alert you. But again, for me, it's more about the environmental stuff. This is my sort of toiletries bag. The toothpaste, you know, soap. I've got little shampoos that I steal from the motels as I move along. I've got my own deodorant, you know, anti-perspirant, whatever, in there as well. Keep that in a nice Ziploc bag. This is super important. These are your sunscreens. I have both because I want to have this in my tank bag, simply because what I found on my last trip was my neck, the back of my neck was getting hammered. As again, if you've seen day 4 of my last trip, the Ashland and back trip, I was just in 80-degree pure sunshine for hours, and it just cooked. And it was like, you know, I realized I could feel it. You know, I was trying to shrug to get my jacket to cover it up, and anyway, so having that, or I can slather some of that on, you know, every hour or 2 hours or whatever, will be helpful. This obviously is more for when I'm leaving in the morning. I can just go to town on my legs and my arms and stuff. Just too important not to do it. A little bit extra food. Obviously, I'm you know, Cliff Bars. I've done Power Bars in the past. I like Cliff Bars just because they're not as sticky. The other nice thing about things like some of these flavors are the fact that these can be a substitute for dessert, right? If instead of eating Kit Kat and M&Ms, I'll snack on a few bites. Yeah, I won't eat the whole thing. I'll just have a few bites of Cliff Bar in the evenings after eating. Also, again, on the road, little snacks as you eat as you go along. Very good with apples. Big fan of apples. Things like that. Obviously, some sandals. This is a big thing for me. One of my key things that I like to do is when I stop, meaning at the town that I'm staying, I like to go and walk. And so I'll try just, you know, for a couple reasons. One is I'll walk to see the town, and do a little tourism, take my camera and take some pictures, but also from a fitness viewpoint. So I like to walk for a mile or two at each town that I stay in, just to get the heart rate up, just to get things flowing, loosen the joints up from sitting all day. The unmentionables, carry a few of those depending on how length of the day you can, length of the trip. I mean, you can switch them inside and out, all that back and forth. This is just a regular men's undershort, like you might wear under a dress shirt. The reason I bring one with me is I do use it, sometimes, but it also makes for a really good pillow cover. So a pillowcase. Sorry, I slip this over the pillow so that my delicate skin is against a shirt that it knows. Obviously, I have a shirt that I bring with me that's sort of my shirt for wearing around, walking around town and whatnot. I'm not particularly picky. I don't bring 6 of these with me. One t-shirt covers me for a few days. I will. The thing is, you got to remember, I'm actually wearing a shirt on the bike too. So in this case, I've got this shirt on, and so if I was to go riding, I would have this shirt and that shirt. So I've got 2 shirts. Let's see, what else do we have? Anything? Here's another thing. I do tend to also bring extra bags along. I'm a big proponent of Ziploc bags, of course, because the security they offer in terms of at least mostly waterproofness, and then obviously some grocery bags come in real handy to throw stuff in, dirty underwear, stuff you might need, wrap up separately, keep it together. So there's always a selection of bags that I bring with me too. Yeah, a couple other things I bring with me is a little kickstand puck. I know you can get commercial versions of these. This one is simply just a piece of a fender that I cut, and I threw the zip tie on it so that when it's on the ground, this sticks up, makes it a little bit easier to grab. When let's see if I can make this more visible. So like when this is picture this on the ground with the bike on it, and you're having to lean over, you can sort of try to get that, pick it up. So I've got that. Again, there's commercial ones that tend to be thicker and more hardcore. The whole goal of this was simply as thin as possible, trying to get it into what I was using it for. And then the other thing I don't have to use it everywhere. Anywhere that uses the newer pumps versus the older pumps. For those of you who aren't familiar, a lot of the gas pumps, the more environmentally friendly ones have vacuum, right? They try to suck the fumes. So they've got this huge shroud that's feels like it's massively spring-loaded just because of the material it's made out of, that makes it very difficult when you're trying to pump gas. You have to, if you're in a car, you shove the whole thing in and it locks. On a bike, if you do that, you're only going to fill the bike up like 75% because the thing's going into the tank so far. So you have to try to hold that shroud back with your hand, which can be very hard. On the actual metal, the aluminum spout piece, there's a flange typically, and so you'll see it come up and it'll go whoop like that. This is used, you slide this over and you pull the shroud back to that flange and then lock it in place, so it holds it in the open mode, and you can just pump without having to fight that. Is that it? That's the main kit, the main clobber, as those across the pond would say. So anyway, so as you can see, it's a bit of stuff, but it's not too bad. I love to keep it simple. Just get up and go. Remember, a 5-day trip is essentially a 1-day trip times 5. I mean, you carry a few more pairs of underwear and maybe some extra food, but other than that, what are you doing? I mean, think about the trip, right? Day 1, day 2. I'm, again, not talking about the guys who go camping, go around the world. Those guys got a whole different thing going on. But if you're like me and you're taking your credit card and you're going to motels, there's really no reason to bring more stuff just because you're out there longer. Unless it's like winter gear, you're having to bring rain gear and stuff. So anyway, thanks for coming along. Get out and ride.